What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. Before I get into today's video, because today's video, uh, there's a lot of questions to ask about what happened yesterday with this MOU, with this shit show of a pipeline. Hopefully I'm going to answer some of those questions, or at least you will, because this video is more, I'm trying to see what the average Albertan, or those who are watching from the outside, think about what's going on, because while some are cheering this as a victory, others are quite upset. Rightfully so. I'm not going to discount anybody's feelings on either side of the board. But one of the things I've always done on this channel is give my opinion. So what I'm going to do today is lay out what I think seems to be the path forward, what I think is the direction of how things are headed. I will try to leave my opinion out of things as much as possible, and rather, let's hear what you have to say once everything is laid out. So I would highly encourage you to stick around for the length of this video, because multiple points on both sides will need to be made. Now, I don't want to make a huge, long, blabbering editorial before we get started, but we do need to talk about this elephant in the room. And if you're not into me blabbering, maybe skip ahead a little bit to when we start laying out the facts. But for my audience who is just like myself, that are frustrated right now, that sit with the independence crowd, or maybe just sit with a crowd that they want answers for how Canada works moving forward, or questions, what the hell is Danielle Smith doing? I can tell you right now that while there's been scrutiny on both sides of the fence, I've tried my best to lay out the facts. I've tried my best to say, let's take the emotion out of this. I am not Nostradamus. I am simply a YouTuber. I try to gather up what facts I think are relevant and then put them out for you guys to look at and get your own information and make your own decisions. I can assure each and every one of you that I have been very transparent on this channel. I will continue to be transparent, and will admit straight up, no, on my children's lives, I have not and do not receive a single cent from outside influences, such as political pundits, their parties, special interest groups. The only thing that pays the bills for me is YouTube. That's the only place I receive my money, or sponsors, and you guys see their ads. What I will say is that anytime I'm trying to bring up these facts, emotions get involved. There's a lot of other channels that are on both sides of this. Some are happy, some are angry. And again, they have a right to their opinion. I think their opinions matter. Many people have said that because I was invited to the Premier's office last week, and because I'm trying to look at the glass half full, that it simply means I'm shilling for Danielle Smith. Danielle is a big girl. She can fight her own battles. And what I can assure you is I'm not defending Danielle Smith. I'm defending Alberta. I sat and watched during a pandemic as people were torn apart with their families. They lost everything. Hope was very low in supply, very much in demand. People sat from 2015 with bad policies from our Liberal government and said, it's got to get better at some point. You know, business has to pick up. Things need to improve. The pandemic hits. People said, I can't see my family. My loved ones are passing away and I'm not allowed in the room. I can't go to a movie with my kids. My kids can't even have a sleepover or socialize with other children. I'm not allowed to spend time with my elderly parents. There's a lot of things that happened during that pandemic that lowered people's threshold of hope. I guess if it makes me naive, I sat around through those years and looked at everything that was happening. And, you know, it started with, okay, well, Trudeau's got another scandal. Maybe he'll finally get caught and this will be the end of it. Maybe we'll see him leave. And sure enough, we were disappointed. The pandemic hit and they called another election. And I said, maybe this is where, you know, even though I don't like Aaron O'Toole, maybe we see the Conservatives pull off a win. Things can change. Policies can change. It didn't come to fruition. The truckers moved their way to Ottawa. Okay, maybe we'll see an end to these mandates. Maybe we'll see a little pushback on the government and they'll finally open their eyes. Didn't work out the way we wanted it to, but I think the end result was that a lot of those measures ended as a result of the truckers going to Ottawa. Pierre Poilievre ran for leader of the Conservatives. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Maybe we'll see a change in this country. It's not going to be perfect, but we'll maybe see a change to some policies. And everybody leading up to the federal election were behind Pierre. Oh, he's going to win. You guys remember the pleb touring the country, showing all the rallies? Yours truly was at one of those rallies in Edmonton. He did a fantastic job, and everybody was convinced this is the end of the road. This is the end of it all. We're going to fix our problems. It didn't happen. But one of the lights at the end of the tunnel was Danielle Smith coming out and saying, Albertans are mad. They're fed up. And if you, Smith-Carney, or Pierre, whoever gets the leadership of this country, does not change some of the ways things are done in this country, especially with Alberta when it comes to the 9 bad laws, you will have a national unity crisis. I still believe that she was accurate with that, because if you look at Alberta right now, Smith-Carney does have a national unity crisis. Independence is at an all-time high. People more than ever are talking about it. In fact, after yesterday's announcement with this weird pipeline, that isn't going to go anywhere, let's be honest. Independence has been fueled even higher. And I think that was part of the plan, and I'm going to outline that. But the reason I say I'm not defending Danielle, I'm defending Alberta, is that whether you watch this channel, other channels, whether you get your news from mainstream media, and if you're here and you do that, I don't understand why you would be here. Influence plays a vital role in how we move forward. My concern is that if we don't try to step back and look at this logically, if we're not united on the independence front, we risk losing not just the independence vote, we risk losing Alberta. We risk losing the ability that we can even hold referendums, that we can even have a vote. If we anger people towards the UCP, if we start saying, to hell with Danielle, to hell with the UCP, all while we're just trying to get this vote, we're trying to get out the door, we risk handing an easy victory to the NDP. And I don't know about you guys, but I fear for a future with the NDP. And those hopes that were diminished to ash when the pandemic hit, when elections hit, the same thing's going to happen in Alberta. Independence will die on the table if we can't find a way to all be united and focus on the vote. Now, the Alberta Prosperity Project has said they wish to work with Danielle and the UCP, pending what happens at the AGM this weekend. I think there's going to be a lot of announcements at the AGM this weekend in terms of police, in terms of pension plan. And again, those things put us on the road to independence. So I don't think they're terrible. But while the independence isn't being discussed particularly, this is a citizen-led initiative. I, once again, prefer, personally, that initiative is held by grassroots and citizen-led. I do not want the government putting their fingers into it, because as soon as they do, it becomes about government. Danielle Smith has put the building blocks in place for organizations like the Alberta Prosperity Project to move forward with a vote. I have my personal belief that if Alberta is to remain as free as it can, we need to acknowledge that those laws exist now to benefit us, and that Danielle has done her part, and now we just let her do her job. We move forward on how do we get the vote. That being said, I want to show you a little bit of what happened yesterday, because I watched John Bolton, I watched PJ the Belt, and their points are very valid. Everybody's got a right to be upset right now. Everybody's got a right to say what the hell is going on in Alberta. But again, stick with me, because a little bit of reasoning, a little bit, again, that we let the dust settle, we breathe, we take a look at the bigger picture. Not making excuses for Danielle or the UCP, but I think there's hopefully, I hope we're not wrong here. I hope that there is a plan. My naivety may cost me my reputation as a YouTuber, because I'm just a guy who wants things to change. I just want some form of sanity in this country. Yukon Strong says, I guarantee you, Alberta will get an entire decade of carbon taxes before this pretend pipeline is pumping one drop of oil. I agree with that. A lot of people looked at yesterday's announcement on the carbon taxes, the industrial carbon taxes, and said, what the hell is this? What is going on? there is going to be a lot of anger surrounding it. And a lot of people are saying Danielle is committing to something with Mark Carney that's a nothing burger. I'm going to show you by the end of this, she's very, very smart, I believe. And that there's maybe a rhyme to the reason. You have other social media accounts that are praising what's happening with Danielle Smith. You've got Mario Zelaya. Huge victory for Danielle Smith. No more emissions cap. We get more pipelines. BC and EB get zero veto power. Tankers on the BC coast have no longer are no longer forbidden. A monster new pipeline is coming, 1 million barrels a day. TMX is going to be allowed to pump out another 400,000 barrels daily. Everyone in Canada should be thanking her leadership. Now, this is Mario Zelaya saying this. This doesn't mean he's right. Doesn't mean he's wrong. Brian Lilly coming out. It's not only a good deal, this deal will likely mean investment flowing into Alberta's oil and gas sector. And this is what people have to remember, is that what happened yesterday wasn't about Alberta independence. This was about getting Alberta a decent deal to bring investment back into the province. Now, do I believe that investors are going to be lining up at the door to throw money down on Alberta oil and Alberta energy? No. I think that over time, you're going to see those doors slowly start to open. And Danielle makes a very good point when we look at Cat Canada's account, showing Ezra Levant pressing Danielle Smith on trusting anti-oil Liberals by questioning their demand to raise carbon taxes now for a promise about a pipeline years or even a decade in the future. Smith says Alberta has to start somewhere and that 7 out of the 9 bad laws were addressed, which makes her hopeful about investment in the province. So, if they were addressed, it doesn't mean they were eliminated, but they were at least addressed in order to bring investment, which was Danielle's mandate, back into Alberta. Danielle never once ran on independence. Those words were never in her campaign. And I keep trying to bring that up to people that are getting frustrated. You have the right to be frustrated. I'm frustrated as well. But she did not run on that, and not every Albertan that voted for her voted for independence. She has a mandate. However, her explanation here sheds a little bit of light, but it's the social media accounts that are going to shed a little bit more on here. So this isn't the receipts that I think are going to prove that there's some sanity going on here, or that Danielle knows what she's doing. I'm not talking 4D chess. I'm talking strategizing. Take a listen to what Ezra Levant had to say, and we're just going to walk through a little bit of what Danielle replies with.
Hi, Premier Ezra Levant from Rebel News. The first deadline in the MOU, if I'm reading it right, is April, where the duty is on Alberta to jack up carbon taxes. And the last date in the MOU, if I'm reading it right, correct me if I'm not, is 2040. That's when this pipeline, that's sort of the end date. It can't be any later than that. In terms of building trust with the anti-oil Liberals, they're asking Alberta to raise carbon taxes now for a promise of an oil pipeline years or even more than a decade in the future. Does that really build trust?
Well, you have to start somewhere. And one thing I would say is that we did have the Supreme Court of Canada rule on the federal government's ability to set a price on emissions. So the Supreme Court has ruled on that. It's part of the reason why we negotiated a stringency agreement that would have seen the carbon tax price go up to $170 a barrel by 2030. We've demonstrated, and I think the Prime Minister agrees, that's too high, too fast.
Now, before we get further, I will chime in and say this is all word salad, and I think this is just typical jargon to try and settle the flames. However, Danielle makes a very good point up here outside of the word salad, that this isn't about a pipeline. This is about bringing investment back into Alberta. And people are saying, well, she's talking about carbon taxes. How does that bring investment into Alberta? She's going to lay that down and that foundation down right here.
So that's why we understand that there was always going to be a negotiation around that. We froze the carbon tax at $95, pending consultation with the industry and greater work with the Prime Minister. But remember, Alberta was the first to have an industrial carbon price. They did we implemented that in 2007. It's generated revenues that have allowed us to invest billions of dollars in new technologies, including carbon capture. So there is a commitment on the part of the industry to have a carbon carbon price, and we did do some consultation on that. We're just glad that we have the means to manage it our way.
So she hints at it very closely there that Alberta was the first province to implement some form of a carbon tax back in 2007. This is 8 years before Justin Trudeau took office, and I can tell you that between 2007 and 2015, there was investment in Alberta, oil projects were moving forward, and projects were getting greenlit. There was a boom at one point, actually, in that 8-year span. So by bringing this in, it's not necessarily, and believe me, this is where people are going to get heated. I am not greenlighting what Mark Carney is suggesting. I'm simply saying that what Danielle is trying to do is bring in some interest into Alberta that doesn't involve her immediately going to the United States. That still isn't an option. We can always add to our arsenal, but what she's trying to do here is bring in investor confidence. If you talk to anybody like Kevin O'Leary, if you talk to anybody who knows anything about finance, especially in the oil and gas sector, and I spoke to 2 individuals who have been in the oil and gas sector for almost 30 years since yesterday, and they have both told me, as well as when you look at, again, Brian Lilly bringing on experts to talk on his panel about what was going on. I know it's in there. They're all saying the same thing. This can hopefully bring investment into Alberta's oil and gas sector. This will create jobs. It will create a little bit more confidence. So while I'm not happy with the idea of Mark Carney, we all know that Mark Carney's padding his pockets with these green initiatives. Danielle has at least tried to make an effort to get our industry flowing again and to try and create jobs. That isn't the problem here, and that is not me making excuses again for the Premier to say, hey, everybody should just shut up and let it go through. John Bolton had a very good video out about this yesterday, about don't spit up my ass and tell me it's raining. PJ the Belt has had very good opinions on all of this, and I would encourage everyone who watches this channel to get all the angles of what's happening. Go and subscribe to PJ. Go and subscribe to John Bolton if you haven't already. Subscribe here if you haven't. But where this all turns around and where all the anger starts to go out the window, folks, is even people like Marty up north. Keep in mind, Marty worked in the oil and gas sector for a very long time, and he understands this business better than most people in this province. He tweets out yesterday, now I'm really confused. Did Carney get played by Danielle Smith? So the Fringe isn't shilling for Danielle here. Marty makes a very valid point. You can see Jody Wilson-Raybould going off on, it's something to turn on the news and watch my former cabinet colleagues say and do the exact opposite of what they claim to be committed to when I was there. Total lack of principles and backbone. You see Stephen Guilbeault, he didn't quit, but he has stepped back from Mark Carney's cabinet. He quit the cabinet. He's going to remain on as an MP, but he's backing out. There is now turmoil in the Liberal Party. They're no longer smug and strong, thinking that they know everything that's going on. They're now questioning Mark Carney. Why did you put this deal in? Why are you working with Alberta? The reality is, Mark's now telling the Liberals, well, it's because I'm getting rich. I got my hands in this. This is my conflicts of interest. With Justin Trudeau, you had policies that were crippling Alberta and crippling the entire country, while all of them benefited from the trough. Now it's Mark Carney coming out saying, well, these are my benefits. Don't stick your fork on my plate. And the Liberals are mad. So Marty says, I'm really confused. Did Carney get played by Smith? You can see the emotion down here. It's a terrible deal. Marty makes a very good point here. She didn't gain or lose anything. But I think he just pissed off a big chunk of his base. For what? Well, his profits. She genuinely thinks it's a win. This is depressing. This is the depressing part, says David Parker. Somebody says, and hear me out, did Alberta just get played? The pipeline will never get built, but the carbon tax will happen and we will pay for it. Marty goes on to say, that was my gut reaction, but now I'm wondering. That pissed off a lot of Liberals. I get that, but Carney hasn't done anything that wasn't A, in his best financial interest, which again this is, and B, wasn't circuiting Albertans' values. I hate to be that guy, but I don't trust him. Nobody does. Ed goes on to say a 600% increase in carbon taxes by spring, and you think Smith may have played Carney. This is where I talk about emotions, and I'm not downplaying anybody's emotions. People have the right to be upset because we don't all understand this industry or why these choices are being made. But Marty goes on to say, he lost a lot of support today. She agreed to things that are irrelevant. Nothing changes for Alberta, but she looks good and he looks bad where it matters to him. And where he's saying she looks good, Brian Lilly's out here saying this is a great deal. Mario Zelaya, this is a great deal. Cat Canada had posted, hey, we got a pipeline. Isn't that great? Danielle has stated in that press conference, if we don't see the government moving forward, yes, it has to be completed by 2040 with no excuses. But she said if there are not steps being taken to show that there's interest in getting this started, meaning if Mark Carney just screws the pooch on this and sits back and says, hey, where's all that carbon capture money? Where's all that industrial carbon tax you said was coming by April? She can easily say, well, you're not doing your part, so we're not going to do ours. Marty making that very valid point. This is the benefit, folks. Danielle Smith could be possibly saving Canada to allow the Conservatives to win at this point. Now, that's not a shill. This is a tweet coming from a man who worked in oil and gas and engineering his entire career life. He lost a lot of support today. She agreed to things that are irrelevant. As she stated before, we had an industrial price on carbon since 2007. And guess what, folks? Our lives were somewhat affordable then. Oil and gas was booming. They were greenlighting projects, and we were able to get to work. Marty goes on to say nothing changes for Alberta, but she looks good. He looks bad where it matters to him. There is now turmoil within the Liberal Party. Those pillars of strength are starting to weaken, and hopefully and eventually will continue to crumble and collapse. And it all started with Stephen Guilbeault stepping back from his caucus, from others getting mad, Jody Wilson-Raybould getting mad. Somebody said here that I didn't cover, he's lucky the entire BC party, the BC Liberal Party didn't up and cross the floor to the Greens. Still might happen. He's caused nationwide turmoil or his own unity crisis within his party. This is great for Pierre. This is great for the Conservatives. It's great for their opportunity to keep pointing out, hey, this pipeline's never going to get built, Carney. What's going on here? While his party eats him alive from the inside, saying, why did you sign a deal with Alberta? We do not want that. We are green initiative. We want windmills and heat pumps. This isn't Justin Trudeau anymore, and I can't believe that this video somehow passes the buck for Mark Carney. But when I say that people that are close to Danielle have told me that she is a smart individual, that she plans very carefully. When we talk about, I hate the term 4D chess. Do you not think there's a bit of a game being played here, folks? I don't want to give my straight opinions here, and I'm really trying not to. I know I am. But when you line all of this up, when you line up the social media accounts that are happy, that are angry, and you start to look at it from those who are experienced in the industry, from what Danielle announced yesterday, does it quell some of your frustrations? Does it maybe have you saying, okay, well, maybe let's back up a bit and see what happens. Let's wait for the AGM. Let's wait and see what's announced. Let's see where we go moving forward from here. Full disclosure, I had a very productive talk yesterday with Mitch Sylvester. And he asked me, where do you think we stand? I told him, I don't know where we really stand. I don't know what the future holds. If I knew the future, folks, I could just tell you where we're going to end up and everybody would be happy. I live on hope. I hope things work out. I hope that things work for us in our favor. And I hope that we get independence. But one thing I did tell Mitch is that if push comes to shove, if it's very prevalent that Danielle does not have the interest of us in Key to be a prosperous Alberta, I back independence before I back anything else. And if it means that eventually I have to turn my back on Danielle Smith and say, you've unequivocally shunned us or mistreated us or ignored us, I will do so. But until then, folks, I'm going to look at the whole puzzle, the whole project, and say, I'm just as frustrated as everybody else. but I think I understand what's going on here. None of us are experts. None of us know 100%. We can only observe and form our opinions until something is done. I wish to use this channel to bring hope to people, even if it's naive like myself, to say there's a possibility here for us to get out of this. The possibility for that is with our vote for independence. Whatever Danielle is doing with Mark Carney is her business, and she has laid the foundation for us to get our vote. The focus now should be until the end of the AGM, we wait to see what Alberta Prosperity Project has to say, we see what their plan is moving forward, if they're going to continue to want to work with the UCP, and we reform from there. We don't need Danielle to win this vote. What we do need is a secure Alberta when all of this is done, should that vote fail. Because much like the federal election, much like hoping that the mandates come to an end, those things failed, folks. They didn't go the way we wanted them to. Should independence fail its first time round in Alberta, we need to ensure that there is a party in power when it's all said and done that will continue to allow us to try again and not split the vote and ensure that Naheed Nenshi or some other party gets their talons into this province that are just going to sink it for political gain. It's a very fine wire that we walk, that I walk on this channel, that everybody walks, because the last thing you want to be told is that you're a hypocrite, or that you flip-flop, or that you're a shill. But the fact of the matter, folks, is I talked to Danielle Smith. I talked to Danielle Smith's people. I talked to Keith Wilson. I talked to APP. I talked to journalists. I speak with a lot of people, and I have to take those facts and form them into what I think is important for you to hear. And while there are some things I can and can't talk about, I will always give you what I think is the facts. I will always give you what I think is the truth, and maybe a little bit of it is hope. But I will never, ever, ever take a single dime from anybody in order to push a specific message. When we're all here for the truth and we're here for a better life, whether that be a sovereign Alberta or a country that actually works for us. All of us want that better life. I understand everyone's frustration because as a father with 3 children who still goes check to check, I can assure you, I want the same thing as you do. So let's find a way to be on the same page and unite this independence front before it drops dead on the table. And find a way to move forward that secures our future. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I know this was a very lengthy video, but a lot of things happened yesterday, and as we head into the AGM, I want to know what you guys think now looking at these testimonials, taking a look at what people have had to say. Do you believe Danielle Smith is on our side, or do you believe we're in trouble? Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I really hope this video's earned your subscription. A lot of people are mad. They've all left because they're mad that the Fringe took a stand for a better Alberta or whatever you thought my opinions were. Your subscription is very much appreciated. We're less than 1,000 away from 150,000. I would have liked to have hit that before the end of the month. We'll see what happens with this video. Leave a like and a comment down below. It sure helps push this video out to those who are maybe angry and don't see these videos, for YouTube to tell them, hey, people are enjoying this. It's worth checking out. Join me live tonight and every Wednesday and Friday for Unhinged Fringe on Wednesdays, Friday Night Fringe on Fridays, as we talk about everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know coming up in the week ahead, as well as Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one.